Welcome to today's episode featuring two remarkable guests, Josh and Rebecca Tickell, who are acclaimed documentary filmmakers whose impactful work has been instrumental in environmental activism both domestically and globally. With a portfolio of award-winning short and featured films, they have collaborated with actors, politicians, and environmental leaders to create powerful cinematic experiences that resonate with millions, driving significant contributions to environmental and social causes. Josh's journey began in 1997 with a pioneering idea, embarking on a cross-country journey in a veggie van powered by used French fry oil, capturing the world's attention and sparkling a sustainability movement. This endeavor catapulted him into the forefront of climate advocacy, ultimately leading to his celebrated status as an author, film director, and speaker. By year 1998, Josh had published his first book and embarked on a decade-long college tour, inspiring students with his vision of positive change through disruptive technologies and pragmatic solutions. His journey culminated in the release of his groundbreaking feature film, Fuel, which garnered accolades including the Sundance Audience Award for the Best Documentary and prestigious screening at the White House. Teaming up with his wife Rebecca, they continued to produce impactful films like The Big Fix and Pump, where they shed light on critical energy-related issues. In year 2017, Josh's book called Kiss the Ground became an Amazon bestseller, which was accompanied by a documentary narrated by Woody Harrelson, earning praise globally. Their film studio, Big Picture Ranch, serves as a creative place for thought-provoking media content aimed at inspiring positive change. Rebecca's talent for crafting compelling narratives has led to films that transcend politics and culture, catalyzing real-world change through legislation and policy reform. One of the first documentaries I saw was called The Earthing Movie, and it has influenced my wife and me to change our daily habits, which gave us a boost to our overall energy and health. Only when we are truly healthy, then we can tackle even larger goals, like trying our best to leave this planet a better place. What I personally enjoy about their work is that they do not only raise awareness of our global problems, but they address the root causes, and at the end of their movies and documentaries, viewers are empowered with real, actionable results. In this episode, we delve into their remarkable journey, exploring their latest projects, and speak about sustainability, filmmaking, and the power of making a difference in the world. You are listening to Health, Happiness, and Planet podcast, where we explore different ways to boost our well-being, live a more fulfilling life, and protect our planet. Join me as I chat with inspiring people and professionals from all over the world, uncovering strategies for improving our lifestyles and nurturing our precious planet. I am Juan, and this podcast is proudly brought to you by Wave Business Excellence Footprint, my digital training company that cares about your career and personal development. I am passionate about making the world a better place, so if you share my enthusiasm, this show is for you. Together, we can steer towards a healthier, happier life while leaving a positive footprint on our beautiful Earth. Join me as we explore how being healthy, happy, and caring for our planet are all connected. Hello, Rebecca, and hello, Josh, and welcome to the Health, Happiness, and Planet podcast. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
We're so happy to be here with you.
Wow, it's so amazing that you have the time to speak with us in this episode. And I'm so grateful because my life, and also the life of my wife, has changed because of your films, your documentaries. But before we go deeper into that part, my first question that I have almost for all of my guests is, how did you meet? And could you tell us just briefly your story? How did you actually get to the idea to do this type of business, to establish the Big Picture Ranch and do documentaries and films, raising the awareness for people about the environment, about change and cultural ideas?
Who's doing that? Me? Okay.
You're doing that one.
I do love telling our story.
You do love telling
true.
this story. So
I think I tell it better, actually.
I can just relax for a minute, zone out.
But our story there's one thing that could have made our story better, and I'll tell you what that is. But when I was a little girl, I was an actress, and I was in a Christmas movie called Prancer, which in the U.S. was like one of the top 20 Christmas films of all time. Sam Elliott played my dad. It had an incredible cast. I worked with incredible people in Hollywood. And I saw at a very early age the power that film has to change the world and to reach millions and millions of people. And I experienced that as a 9-year-old girl. And the film, that film touched so many people's lives, and it affected my life. And it brought me to Hollywood as a young adult. And before I got to Hollywood, there was one significant moment. I remember I was watching the Today Show, and there was this guy who was in his early 20s. I think I was 17 at the time. And he was being interviewed by Matt Lauer on the Today Show about his veggie van that he had built. And he was using used cooking oil to make biodiesel. And he was also teaching people how to convert their cars so that they could run on straight vegetable oil.
Who is that guy?
And the reason he was doing this is because he had grown up in Louisiana in a part known as Cancer Alley. And he had seen members of his family get sick, and he had experienced the pollution from oil refining that happens there.
Yeah.
150 petrochemicals in a 100-mile area. And he went off to Germany, as a matter of fact, and saw that they were making biodiesel from the rapeseed that they were growing, and they had a closed-loop system, and it really was working. And the soil was growing, and there was a healthy, thriving farm. And he thought, if we could take a waste stream in the United States, like fast food cooking oil, and turn that into an energy source, like we can find a way to do this. Like there are solutions. We don't have to go to war for oil. We don't have to kill ourselves over this resource. And it started a movement, and he wrote a book, and I just was so inspired by this human being. So fast forward, here I am in Hollywood, and I'm now starring in horror movies. And I'm like a victim, or I'm eye candy, and I'm finally like in this Clive Barker horror movie for sci-fi, and I'm giving birth to a giant squid baby on the basement floor of a monastery, and it's trying to eat me. And I'm thinking to myself, it's time for a career change. And so shortly after that, I was doing some volunteer work, and I saw this guy, and I had some real chemistry with him. And I actually knew him for quite some time before we had our first date. And when I went over to his house, you'll never believe what was parked in his backyard.
Oh, no, that van.
The veggie van. And then that was it.
Oh, yes. The saga of the veggie van continues to this day.
Yes. Now, the part of the story that would have been better is if he had seen Prancer and had that same thought, like, wow, look at this little 9-year-old girl. Like, she's going to change the world. But sadly, he did not see Prancer.
She just smiled at me like I was supposed to know who she was. And I was like, what do you want me to say? Like...
Yeah, you were like, come over to my house.
Yeah.
And eventually I did. And now his house is my house. And do you want to tell the story about how we formed Big Picture Ranch and why we formed Big Picture Ranch?
Well, Big Picture Ranch is really an extension of our philosophy. We always wanted to make movies that would change the world, specifically around environmental issues, solutions to climate change, which, as you know, are very related to solutions to our own personal health. If the planet is unhealthy, we're unhealthy, and vice versa. And Big Picture Ranch was our vision for a place where we could make films, grow food, raise a family, and sort of have this international learning center where people could come and see, oh, this is what it looks like to use alternative energy sources. This is what it looks like to grow food regeneratively, and have sort of a lifestyle that wasn't living in a grass hut, with a dirt floor, which for Americans may not be very attractive. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we wanted to show that you could live well, but live in harmony as well. And that's what Big Picture Ranch is. It's also
a lot better than living in a van.
Right. I mean, that may be true. I still enjoy traveling in the van, but
He does. We do.
Yeah, I think I enjoy it more than everybody else. But the thing about Big Picture Ranch is it's also a film studio. We're the only film studio that has been in existence for 2 decades that focuses exclusively on solutions to climate change.
Wow.
So to say that in Hollywood is it's, to make one film about that in Hollywood is crazy. But to have done it for over 2 decades is truly insane. I think it took that long, though, for us to get into people's minds that Big Picture Ranch is not going away. In fact, this is growing. the demand for our films is growing, and the international audience of hundreds of millions of people that we reach all happens from this little plot of land in Ojai, California, where we grow avocados and we've got llamas and kids, and we make our movies in a barn, and then they go out and hopefully, affect a lot of people's lives.
Wow.
Yeah. And we have the veggie van too, which is still have the veggie van, which is great. It's finally, when I turn it on, it doesn't catch on fire anymore, which is definitely a plus.
Made some upgrades.
And when Josh and I got together, we started making films together 17 years ago, and we've made 20 films during that time.
That's amazing. That is such a cool story. People ask me also, like, isn't it like too much to be working with your wife day and night and in the same business, and then you see each other at night for dinner, and then you go to bed, and I say, well, it's only a nightmare if you're not with the right person together, but if you're with the right person, and it's just a dream job. Yeah. And therefore now, since I have that company where I'm working together with my wife, I say, wow, we should have done that so many years ago, because it's so much fun. And that's why I can totally relate to what you just mentioned, how it's like to work on those films, and that that both of you are heading the same direction. Yeah, you have the same mission and vision, and that's the most beautiful thing, that people can, as a couple, then develop together in a certain direction. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah, well, and over the years, we came together working together. And so I think over the years for us, it's been a journey of like deepening our friendship and rediscovering each other. That's been one of the fun parts of the process.
Absolutely. Wow. That's so great to hear. And one thing which makes me really curious is that there's so many topics out there which one could focus on to raise awareness for people. I mean, sometimes I could feel myself a little bit overwhelmed to say, wow, we need to do something for the ocean. Oh, we need to do something for the forest. Oh, we need to do something about this topic and that topic. And oh yeah, the pollution. So at the end, how do you filter what would be the next project? What will be your next film? How do you actually prioritize that? How do you select it?
Well, I've been an environmental activist since I was 6 years old, unwittingly. I was thrown into it by my mother.
Okay.
And over the course of 4 decades of watching the environmental movement and being enmeshed in it, it has really transformed the priorities that it went after. And today, fast forward to 2024, Regeneration has become the movement. It's not that there are a lot of competing movements inside the environmental movement. If you look at the overarching narrative, it's all about regeneration, whether it's about food rights, social justice, and environmental issues, whether we're talking about pollution, climate change, whether we're talking about mercury in fish, the oceans. There is one movement that has all of these within it, and that's regeneration. Some people would say regenerative agriculture, but it's a broader topic than that. It's how do we regenerate our bodies, the oceans, the land, the climate, the planet? It's all connected. It's one idea. It's one data set, right?
Yeah.
And it's one language. And so for us moving forward, that's really what we're looking at, is how do our films amplify this new idea of what environmentalism is? I mean, ultimately, I assert that we're all environmentalists, because I am not aware of any human being that can live for any length of time apart from the environment. And this disconnection that we've basically institutionalized through our socialization, I assert that that's the source of disease. It's certainly the source of a tremendous amount of physical disease, mental disease, emotional stress, psychological problems, and spiritual. If you really look at the spiritual, soullessness that so many people in the modern world feel as they go to jobs, whether, pre-COVID, it was in a cubicle. Post-COVID, you're stuck on your computer in Zoom for a zillion hours. This is a relatively soulless kind of way of interacting. Whereas when you go out into nature and you're interacting with nature, you're stewarding, you're growing food, you're walking, you're hiking, you're surviving, you're being part of that intrinsically biologically connected universe, your heart rate stabilizes, people's blood sugar stabilizes. Psychotherapists are now using what they call nature therapy or ecotherapy to deal with trauma, post-traumatic stress from all sorts of terrible things that have happened to people. Because when a human being is able to get present in their body and they're able to be with the natural elements, the body self-regulates and the mind self-regulates. And what do you know? so many of these conditions, people come up to us in theater after theater, and we've done thousands of screenings now over the years. They say, oh my gosh, we watched your film Kiss the Ground. We watched the Earthing movie. We watched Common Ground, and we took our son off of wheat. We took him off of wheat because if it's not organic wheat, it contains glyphosate, and it's poisoning our family, and we realized that. And then we realized that he was eating garbanzo beans that weren't organic, that were filled with glyphosate. And the story goes on, and inevitably they get to the point of, and his condition either went away or is unnoticeable compared to where it was. And the list of conditions are as long as the list of chronic conditions that we face in the modern world. 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically unhealthy. That's stunning. That was unheard of in 1950. So we have incentivized ourselves to become a sick society, and in so doing, have created a sick climate situation. It's meta. We want the natural world to mimic ourselves. When you look at animals and how animals are treated in factory farms, they're treated just like we treat ourselves. They're stuck in one place, and they sit there and they eat junk food. It's like we think the natural world should mimic our mental degradation. And it's actually quite the opposite. The natural world has a system of symbiotic order that we in the modern world have fought to remove ourselves from. If we want balance and we want harmony and we want health and we want a climate that works for 10 billion people, we want to feed 10 billion people, we have to remember our intrinsic biological, environmental nature. That doesn't mean, again, I'm not saying go live in a grass hut, but chances are if you're listening to this, you or somebody you love is suffering from a chronic condition. It's either physical, mental, psychological, emotional, or spiritual. And I assert that whomever in your circle, if it's you, you're disconnected from nature. Yeah. Begin to learn to reconnect to nature, whether that's planting in a garden with soil, going out, being with the trees, spending time in the sun with vitamin D, putting your bare feet on the natural ground. Your body will regulate, your mind will regulate, and you'll be surprised, and stop eating the processed stuff that came from the machine that is a result of our disconnection from nature. When we bring our body back into balance, health is possible. When we bring the planet back into balance, we have a climate that works. And so I don't even remember what your question was because
I remember.
I just went on a big monologue.
So beautiful. And it's great.
But I appreciate the question.
It was so great. Well, the
Thanks
question
for giving me
was,
the time to answer.
how do we know what movies we make? And that, what he just outlined is our sort of guiding principle. And, for us, our films are about restoring connection and connecting people with nature and each other. And then our process, really, it's as simple as he gets a vote, I get a vote, and the film gets a vote.
Fantastic.
It's really that simple.
Yeah.
And if we're both not on board, it doesn't happen.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and films want
and sometimes
to be...
we're both on board and the film just doesn't happen because the film...
Yeah, films either want to be made or they don't. And they really call themselves into being. It's very esoteric to think about that, but we've made a lot of them. And there is a weird, magical thing that happens with the movie where the movie really creates a momentum unto itself.
It kind of hits us over the head and then we can't not do it.
Yeah. And right now with Kiss the Ground being followed by Common Ground, and now the third film that we've started to create called Groundswell, this trilogy is where we're putting the majority of our energy. We have a couple of other little things that we're working on, but this is a powerful, I think the information that's understandable on a cognitive level and the information that's deeper. Because when you make a movie and you're dealing with natural systems, there are layers of things that are happening on screen with sound, with vibration, with energy that then transform in the viewer's mind that can have profound effects beyond what's on the screen. And so I think actually what's contained in these 3 films when they will be done is the energy of 1,000 suns. It is the energy to literally transform life. And that's not because we're like the most greatest filmmakers ever. We're good, but we've tapped into something that wants to be known. It's us and a huge team, a huge community, But the thing itself is what's important, not the film. It's the power of regeneration. So that's going to guide us for some time.
Yeah. And that's what really struck me when I saw Kiss the Ground the first time. I was so blown away because that was probably the time when I was feeling quite overwhelmed about all the things that we could improve with projects. So I had like this large project plan where I said, okay, when I put up my company, we're going to do these and these projects. But there were just so many of them. I just did not know how to prioritize them and where to start. But then when I saw Kiss the Ground, I was thinking like, my God, there's an actual solution out there. So you were able to present it in such a beautiful way to say, look, this is the problem and that's the root cause. And hey, look, there's a solution. And the solution is actionable. We can do it by just changing the way we do certain things. We don't have to build, I don't know, some kind of machine that's going to cost millions of dollars to create. This is just by doing simple changes in the way how we do the agriculture, simple ways how we're going to change the way we do things, that is going to make our environment much, much better and healthier and restore the soil and bring back the carbon into the ground. So all of these things just blew me away. And I said, okay, that's one of the first times I've ever seen that I feel that I can go now this direction because I feel that that is the solution that we all need to really focus on. If I think about 30 years ago or more, when I was in high school, I remember that it was a big topic about the ozone layer. So everybody was really focused on the topic ozone layer. We got to watch out. The hole's getting bigger. So let's stop using aerosol. Let's stop using all the hairsprays. And today, like 2 to 3 decades later, it's like, hey, we spoke so much about it that actually it's getting better. That's where I think now that we are finding the rabbit hole that we can really dig deeper into, and we know that that's going to help us and it's going to bring a solution to many of these problems that we have, if not maybe all of the problems. And that's also my hope that if I look now 20 years ahead of us, that we will be hopefully really making the curve and that we can all go this direction with regeneration. So thank you for bringing that solution to the viewers.
That was one of those things that hit us over the head and then we couldn't not do it. And part of that, it was a 7-year journey for Kiss the Ground. And we had 2 children in the middle of that journey. And we had a real clear calling to tell that story and to use every tool we had and everything that we've learned on both of our journeys to be able to make that film. You know, if we felt a lot of pressure that we had to do it well because the message is so important for humanity. And so,
exactly,
you know, it feels really good that people are watching it and that it has been able to reach so many people and then to see the effect and the impact that it's having in the world. I mean, for me, it's not like an ego trip. It's like, thank God, you know, my children will hopefully live in a world one day where, you know, we can say we regenerated it and we stabilized the climate through how we manage the land.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the good things that one can do it through that storytelling magic that you can put into your films is that you can touch different emotions in people. Yeah, and sometimes people only will react or maybe will only start thinking about things and asking you questions when you get into the central nervous system, and you can maybe make them laugh, you can make them cry, you can make them hopeful, you can touch so many emotions on a person on different levels through your films, that I think that that's where it really can trigger off new questions once they finish watching the film, where they say, hey, maybe I should do something about this, and I haven't thought about this before. And therefore my next question for you is there anything that will now enable the viewer to take the next step? So at the end of your movies, is there any type of direction that you can help the viewers to say, okay, I want to take action? What is it that you're providing them?
You know, for us, this is really interesting because our films are 100% geared towards having somebody take an action after watching the film. And that's tricky as a storyteller because you want to, they're advocacy documentaries. So we obviously have a perspective and we're putting that out there, and then we're encouraging people to take action based on that information. And then we're using the means of documentary storytelling through Hollywood as the way to do that. And so every film we've had has 100% had a call to action, and each one has had a slightly different one. Like if we look at the Earthing movie, the call to action was put your feet on the ground, get connected to the earth. The earth will heal your body. You're going to get flooded with electrons the minute your skin touches the earth. It's going to thin your blood viscosity. It's going to reverse inflammation in your body. And so much of the disease we have is based on inflammation. And by simply touching the earth fills your body with that electron charge that it needs to be able to function properly. That's really important information. We literally lost touch with the earth, and that has a profound effect on our health and on our well-being and on our clarity. So that was a really clear call to action. And it worked. I mean, we put that movie, we uploaded the short version and then escaped from the Thomas Fire.
Oh my God.
And then went to Australia in 2017 with our children because our house was inhabitable.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And we went to this yoga class, and this yoga teacher in the middle of nowhere in Australia starts talking about how she had just gone on Facebook and she had seen this short film and how it was about earthing. And Josh and I kind of look at each other like, oh, somebody else uploaded a video about earthing too. But then she starts talking more and more about it. We realize it's our film.
Wow.
And we couldn't believe it. And then we went and we looked online because we'd been so distracted by everything that we had been going through. It had been seen over 110 million times on the internet, and it had gone viral, and we had done nothing.
Oh my God.
It was unbelievable. There was a huge pull for it. And then people really did use it, and they took action. That was the power of that film. It's like the earth will heal you.
I was one of them who took action.
Yes. And your story of walking 6,800 miles barefoot after watching the Earthing movie, that I don't think I've ever heard anybody tell an impact story like that
And
before.
ditched our
It's
corporate
almost
jobs.
too much for me to be with. It's amazing the power that we have to touch people's lives. And then with Kiss the Ground, the action was really clear as well. And the action is, let's regenerate our land. There is a solution to climate change. We can take the teraton of carbon we've emitted. We can store it in soil through biosequestration. It's the only way to reverse desertification and build soil. There's simple practices that we've been doing since the beginning of time that we put them together so elegantly and so simply, and nature comes back into balance, and we are a part of nature, and we come back into balance. So that call to action for people was a bit broad because it's introducing people to the idea of the carbon cycle and the fact that we can reverse climate change. We can stabilize the climate through what we eat and how we grow that food, period. And so, it's a movement because it may not be a totally new idea, but the idea of taking this concept of regeneration and building soil into the mainstream has a variety of calls to action. And so the film, we showed it for free in schools. We made a curriculum that went along with that. It reached 39 million American school kids for free. But the big impact was around, and is still happening, but we went from, 3 million acres to 30 million acres approximately within 3 years from the time that Kiss the Ground came out.
Yeah.
And then the USDA showed the film Kiss the Ground to the entire USDA.
Wow.
So you can imagine how that goes. Here we are telling people through farming we can reverse climate change and stabilize the climate, but you have to stop using chemicals. So you can imagine how the ripple effect that had. You have to stop tilling, right? They showed it to everybody in the USDA. And then the film was credited as being the catalyst or one of the main influencers in the $20 billion that was committed to climate smart agriculture. That's real impact.
Yeah.
That's real. That's acres of land. That's hectares of land that went from being chemically fallowed to suddenly having the opportunity to grow life and sequester carbon. Yeah. And the goal with Common Ground, our new film, is to regenerate 100 million acres in North America, because that's 10% of our ag land. And that's what it would take for us to reach the tipping point in North America and have regenerative agriculture blossom into the way that it needs to be. I mean, with that kind of momentum, then regeneration is here, and we're doing it. And human beings can look back at the moment that we realized that we could save ourselves.
That's so beautiful. And I don't think I could recall any other film or documentary that makes it so complete, like the way how you have put it together. Yeah, by showing, first of all, the problem, the root cause, the solution, but then you even give the call to action, which is usually where it fails. Yeah, and almost every project that I have done in companies before, first we do workshops, we find the problem of our process issues in the company, and then we get that great action plan, and everybody's giving their ideas, everybody is defining who's the owner of these ideas, but then at the end, you come back 6 months later and say, okay, are these actions have to be implemented? Yeah, did we do the changes that we wanted to do? And everybody's like looking at each other, it's like, well, I don't know, we all just went back to business as usual. And it's like, hey guys, we had these great ideas. Why don't you just put it into action? And I think similar happens when people are watching such documentaries, that they just get the information and they're just getting knowledge. But what is knowledge if you cannot put it then later on into action? And then maybe 3 months later, you totally forgot about certain things you have watched before. So I think that is definitely something very, very magical that you have done also in your documentaries, to put that piece at the end of each documentary and each film where people know, okay, I really now need to do something and I'm going to do it now. I can just click there. You usually have those links where they can go and find out more and take action. So it's a very complete package. Yeah, and I really got a compliment for that. And one of the questions I have is, as you mentioned the Earthing movie and how the health also improved for you and your family. Now it's been, I think, probably like 4 or 5 years since the Earthing movie. So I'm just curious to see how has been the developments. How's the health of the family? And are you still grounding? We are very curious to hear the updates.
Oh, we're religious grounders, so if you'll find me running around. I mean, I'm currently barefoot at the moment, probably with some chicken poop on my feet from running around in the backyard. That was a turning point for our family when we realized the power that the earth has to heal our bodies and to keep us healthy, and so we sleep on earthing mats every night. It's made such a difference for us. We can feel the difference in our bodies. We're all about regeneration, but the reality is that we're also environmental documentary filmmakers, and that's our lifestyle is in conflict sometimes with our messaging. Yeah. And so for us, earthing has been sort of, I'd say, the thing that's kept us grounded. It's literally kept us grounded. It's kept us healthy. It's kept us going. I mean, physically, our health, our connection, so much of that comes from being connected to the earth and our mutual love of the earth. That really this is present for both of us. But I'd also say the other thing that earthing has done for our family is when you really are like sitting and you're feeling that charge from the earth, you really can feel it. You also can get other messages in those moments. And so for us, that's been a guiding force for our work, is those quiet moments connected to the earth where we just take away all of our thoughts and we tune into that sort of, I don't know what the word is, resonance. I don't know. I really am sounding like I'm from Ojai, California right now. But, that has been a guiding force for our work as well. Yeah, it's just simply getting connected to nature and listening. Yeah.
Time for a quick break to mention that the sponsor of this podcast is Wave Business Excellence Footprint, a digital training company deeply committed to your career development, personal growth, and the well-being of our precious planet. Dive into a wealth of knowledge with over 20 courses available on our website, www.wave-bef.com. Tailored for both managers and employees aspiring to become tomorrow's leaders. One of our best-selling courses is the Presentation and Communication Skills Training, perfect for those creating and delivering presentations in their companies. Whether through video conference or live meetings, if you want to convey your message effectively and do an outstanding job, this course equips you with the skills to be a better creator and presenter. Check out the testimonials on our website. The results speak for themselves. During my time in the corporate world, I often wished I had the opportunity to access such courses at the beginning, making my learning experience quicker. And now, one further topic before we jump back to the conversation. For those of you resonating with the themes of health, happiness, and planet, discover information about our 3-day retreat in Spain by reaching out to my team at the email address hhp@wave-bef.com. You will obtain further information about our life-changing retreat held once a year, together with some of our remarkable podcast guests. Each retreat is unique, leaving you energized with a set of simple tools to take control of your health and happiness sustainably. And the best part, you will be surrounded by like-minded individuals, ending the retreat with a personal action plan shared regularly within the group. I also feel more productive when I'm grounded than when I'm not. And there's so many things that happened to my wife and for myself when we went to that grounding journey.
even though people say that grounding is so important, that you do it when you're in nature and when you're out there in the forest or in the park. But what we realized is that we needed it even more when we were traveling across cities, because we noticed that when we are in cities, we're so exposed to so much electromagnetic fields. We have exposed to so many antennas that are on top of all those buildings, all of those lights everywhere. And we felt so electrified when we are in cities. But then when we're walking in the cities barefoot, we're like, wow, I feel so calm. I never felt so calm before when I was walking by a city. And I could just feel it, like the sensation in my gut that sometimes it just gets like a little bit anxious inside of my gut. And I know, okay, I need to get grounded. So that's what I felt in the past when I was walking in bigger cities. And now when we were traveling and going through those cities barefoot, we don't feel that electromagnetic charge that we used to have before. And I was actually wondering, well, that's actually an interesting thing, because when you're out in nature, you're anyway protected from so many antennas, and you don't have all that exposure to 25 Wi-Fi routers every 2 blocks when you walk by. So you're already somehow grounded. Even if you just touch the tree, then you're already grounded. But then we realized, hey, actually we need it even more when we're walking through cities. Yeah. And the other thing which I noticed, that when we are in nature, I suddenly had that connection to nature that I never had before. And this only happened like after the 2nd or 3rd year that I start feeling these energies. So when I started walking by a tree, I'm thinking like, interesting. That tree seems to be like wanting to communicate with me. So I just feel attracted sometimes to a certain tree, and then I just go there and I just touch the tree or hug the tree. But then it feels for me like if I would be getting to know a new person, because I had like these butterflies in my belly, and I'm thinking, wow, that's like really getting to know a new person again, like a new friend. And that's something that I think, wow, I'm coming from the corporate world, doing all these projects, thinking about data and facts. And then suddenly I switch to grounding, and I'm walking in nature and feeling what other trees want to communicate with me. And that is just so amazing, to feel that. And I think, as you mentioned earlier today in our conversation, the more you detach yourself from nature, the more sick and ill we'll get. And the more you get connected to nature, then the more healthy we're going to get, and the more connected we'll feel. And then we realize, hey, actually, we're all connected. When I'm here with my bare feet on the ground, then I'm connected to all those elephants and zebras and giraffes all around the world who are also standing on the ground, and perhaps all the other barefooters out there.
You're describing the mycelium network right now. Like you're describing the way our food is in a desertified conventional farm versus a regenerative, healthy farm with the soil. Because, like when we're connected to the earth, right, you really are here, you're getting messages, you're tuned into your environment, your body is in sync with nature, it's functioning properly, getting what it needs. But when you're not, you literally wilt and you begin to die. You're not going to have that vitality. It's the same thing with our food. When our food is grown in healthy soil and it has nutrition, it's healthy for us. It literally communicates with the entire ecosystem that it's in, and it can pull nutrients from the other side of the field if it needs to.
Wow.
I mean, that's the power of nature, is
Amazing.
to be able to move minerals and nutrition around through these highways, through these networks in the soil. And the thing is, we are also connected to that.
Yeah.
So there's like a whole level of communication that we can get access to through being connected, through being barefoot on healthy soil. It's the same for our food. This is all, these are all microcosms of each other.
Yeah.
They're all reflecting one another.
There was one other study I was reading about, and they're still doing a couple of tests on that, but they even found out that if you're walking barefoot on a specific land, let's say if it's your garden and you're walking barefoot there, the earth, Mother Nature, can recognize if you're deficient in specific vitamins and minerals in your body. Mm-hmm. And then you will suddenly have specific plants that will be growing in your garden. And you're thinking, wow, that's an interesting one. I haven't seen that plant before. But actually, that could be exactly the plant that you need to balance out your deficiencies that you have in your body. And that is something that they're studying right now. And it's just totally amazing. Yeah.
It is really amazing. Yeah. And when you start to tap into it, it's just like it opens you up to this whole other world, you know, and it's hard to go back.
Yeah.
It's hard to go back after that.
That's right. And once you know, you cannot rewind anymore. Then you just know.
You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that one other very important point you've mentioned that a lot of listeners do not know about it yet, that they think if I'm going to eat a banana, that the banana I'm going to eat is the same banana like anywhere else. And if I'm going to eat an apple, it's just going to nourish me as any other apple. But if those fruits that I'm eating are coming from a land that is not healthy, or I would say lack nutrients, then whatever you're eating in that apple is also just going to have partially that nutrient in there. So if you think you're going to be healthy by eating an apple or any apple from anywhere, it could be actually not really giving you that much vitamins and nutrients because that apple came from a land that was already totally depleted. But if you're going to have the same...
It also could be harming you if it has chemical traces of pesticide, herbicide, fungicide residue on it.
Exactly.
I mean, it could... And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but just to highlight what you're saying, in Common Ground, we interviewed some scientists who had done studies around nutrition density in food. And they were measuring the nutrient density of spinach. And they found that spinach that was grown in a regenerative organic environment had 300 times more nutrition than conventional spinach. It took 300 boxes of spinach to equal one of conventional spinach to equal the same nutrient density as one bowl of regenerative organic spinach.
Oh my God. Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay. Usually one thing, okay, maybe it's just a little bit back and forth, but that's not little bit. That's like, oh man, that's a lot. Yeah.
That's the difference between a food grown in a harmonious, symbiotic, regenerative environment versus one grown in desertified dust.
Wow. One of the plant-based doctors, his name is Dr. Michael Greger. He has like the Dirty Dozen, and I think he publishes them every year where you can see which are the ones I really have to watch out for. And I think apples was always on the top of the list that you have to watch out because of the exposure to pesticides, herbicides, and all these other chemicals. And that's why if you're going to have some of those Dirty Dozens, then just make sure that you properly clean them, which is sometimes really tough. So that's why it's just all the reasons, why doing this regenerative way of farming and doing our food and crops so important for us as a species to survive, and not only for our health but for the health of the planet. And that's the connection that I finally got. That was like this short circuit that just happened in my brain when I watched Kiss the Ground. I'm like, oh my God, hallelujah, now we found the direction we need to go. So I got so many other questions, but so that we don't explode the time that we have, I'm going to go to my next one that I have here on my list. So you also mentioned your second sequel to Kiss the Ground, which is now Common Ground. So just to highlight again, what is the main difference between Kiss the Ground and Common Ground?
I like that you called it the second sequel. You know what? We have so many movies now with ground in it. It's even confusing for us. But so it's Kiss the Ground, which is currently available on Netflix and come out. We have exciting announcements coming soon about that.
Fantastic.
And then Common Ground is the sequel. It's more of a follow-up, I would say, because you don't have to have seen Kiss the Ground to watch Common Ground.
Okay.
It really is it's a standalone film that shows, it sort of pulls back the curtain on what's not working and why we're stuck in this broken food system and the true effect that it's having on the entire planet and our bodies, and then how we can regenerate and the farmers who are doing it and the people who are leading the way and showing how profitable and healthy they are as a result of that. Yeah. And then the third film, sort of the finale of the Soil trilogy, is called Groundswell. Okay. And that is the story of global regeneration. And it's about the moment that we woke up and saved ourselves.
Wow.
And it's about the leaders who around the world are healing their ecosystems through regenerative agriculture and showing that it works. Wow. And you can draw down carbon and you can stabilize climates, one ecosystem at a time. Wow. But it's all happening simultaneously. I mean, it is happening. We are at the tip of a movement right now. Yeah. This really is, and we're going to look back on this moment in 40 years and we're going to say this was the moment that, it's like in the movies when the asteroid's coming and all the presidents, they finally are like, oh no, we have to stop fighting each other. We've got to work together. That's where we're at right now. Yeah. We're going to start working together and we're going to turn this around.
Yeah. That's where it gives me a lot of hope, where before watching Kiss the Ground, I was thinking, well, I don't know if there's much hope for us as a species, but after watching that, I said, yep, hope is back. Yeah. And I know we're going to make it.
Yeah. Thank God. You know, we watched An Inconvenient Truth in 2006. Is that when it came out? And I just remember that was a turning point for me in my life. That was when I met you. I met you that year. I never put that together. I met you that year. That we saw An Inconvenient Truth. How kismet, right? You know, that both of us would be so floored by that film. I remember just being so, a part of me was like really turned on. Like, I got to do something about this. Like, I felt personal responsibility for it.
Yeah.
But then also I felt really alarmed and afraid. And I, that's still in there. That's still an option for how it could go, unfortunately. But there is hope.
Yeah.
And this is the first time as I see Kiss the Ground coming out, and I see the response to Common Ground, and I see what we're doing with Groundswell. This is, I'd say, the first time that I really have confidence and I have faith that humanity is embracing regeneration. That this is a turning point for humanity in our history.
Fantastic. And I think also the millions that you reach through your films and documentaries, that you'd never know who gets it in their hands, because they could see it on their iPad, they could see it on their smartphone, they could see it in the kitchen TV, and maybe you reach some teenager who is the son of some decision maker in some government. Yeah, and say, hey, Dad, look at this. Yeah, why don't we do something about this? Yeah, and maybe it just gets to the living room where another politician is, the head of some country and thinks, oh my gosh, yeah, I've never seen it that way. And so you really never know who is watching your movies, and if it's going to be so many millions, that there's always going to be some decision makers out there who will then say, okay, that's it, I got to do something about that, because maybe they did not even know about that before, because they're so deep into their political issues and all of their topics that they have. But once they see that together with their family, because these are movies you can watch with your family, then they're like, hey, that's amazing, I did not know that before. And then hopefully they will also take action.
Yeah. Would you want to know something crazy? Actually, you reminded me of a funny story, which was we had a whole other plan going on. And then we get this phone call. Oh, King Charles, well, he was Prince Charles at the time. His Royal Highness's sustainability advisor is in Santa Monica and would like to meet with you. And we were tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
We were like, and they're going to come to you. So we were like, okay, let's halt life for a moment and let's focus on this now for a minute. And he came and he told us that, and actually we were then invited to go to England and film with His Majesty and see his regenerative farms. Yeah. And we found out from him that Kiss the Ground is his favorite movie.
Oh my God.
And he told Woody Harrelson that he has shared it with over 1,000 of his friends.
Oh my God.
So that's an example of your story of walking 6,800 miles after watching the Earthing movie, and then King Charles invites us to go to his palace, his house.
That's an amazing story.
And yeah, you never know.
Yeah, that's right.
Who you'll reach and who you'll touch. And I mean, I'm saying that not from a place of oh yes, we did that, because if you're listening right now, I really want to impress upon you. This is the most important thing that I really want to come through, is that I am so inspired in this conversation hearing your story about walking 6,800 miles barefoot and the impact that had on you, and that we were a part of that. And so I think the message is we really can change people's lives through sharing our stories. And there is hope. We are connected. And when we connect and we tap in with people, you don't even know where that person's going to go and who that person's going to talk to. You don't have to be reaching millions of people to change the world. Exactly. It's through our connections every day and the seeds that we plant with the people in our lives that really do ultimately grow and turn things. We're in this together. Yeah. We're all waking up together.
That's right. All rowing the same direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of us. King Charles, person, your next door neighbor.
Exactly.
People that we'll never meet.
And sometimes those seeds that you plant, you might not see the fruits tomorrow or after tomorrow, because somehow I noticed everybody just has to process it at their own speed. And some people might just see your documentary today, but they will not take action tomorrow. But maybe in a year from now, something happens in their life where they say, hey, I got to go back and look at that documentary again. And then maybe in a year from now, they will do something. Yeah. So sometimes people need some time to process it. And that's one of the things that I realized from the people who are around us, that even though we tell them all about it, say, hey guys, we got to do this, we got to go that direction, and look, that information is out there, we got to do it. But they're not taking action. And we're thinking, how can that be if they already know all of the solutions? And I just realized that people really have to be at their own pace. Everybody has their own time to start processing. It depends, because I think everybody has their own issues in their life, and there has to happen something where they say, okay, now it's the moment I'll take action in that point. And that's why, main thing, you have planted the seed, and you know that the seed will be there, and hopefully someday it will grow.
Yeah, that's right. It will.
As we are also almost getting to the end to our conversation today, it's regarding schools, because you mentioned that it's also being shown in schools. Is there some perspective maybe that one will have them also available in different languages, or are they in subtitles in different languages so that one can also show them in schools in different countries?
The school version of the film, which is free to schools.
Yeah.
So Kiss the Ground's school version is available now on the Kiss the Ground movie website, kissthegroundmovie.com. Common Ground, it's coming in September for what we call back to school here in the US. So that's commongroundfilm.org. And that version will be 45 minutes. Okay. It's available downloadable and on DVD, and we subtitle it in many different languages, over 20 different languages for both. And it's free.
Fantastic.
Free. 100% free.
Excellent. Yep. That's really good to hear, because I know that at the end of the day, these children today are going to be our leaders of tomorrow. And that's why it's so important that they already are equipped with such knowledge. And what do you think is right now hindering schools to put more of these topics into the agenda of the schools? Well, here, if I look at the schools in Europe, some of them have it maybe as a topic, but just like a side thing that you just hear about it once or twice. When I went to school, I did have a class for 1 year that was dedicated to environmental awareness. But I still see that there's a hesitation that schools are putting it into the agenda, just like math, just like chemistry and biology. Why do you think there's this hesitation to put all of this information out there in the schools?
I mean, I would venture so far to say is that actually the information is going into schools, but it's not the correct information. There has been a huge push for decades to use education as a means to push the green revolution. So, you know, young children in 4-H clubs, and I'm not sure if they have 4-H in Europe, but in the US we have 4-H, we have land-grant universities. And so the education is being taught around soil, and they're teaching that it's a growing medium that needs to have chemical inputs and other artificial inputs, and that you need to, you know, do a monocrop and till and use a genetically modified seed. You know, the whole thing is being taught in schools. Maybe not in about a public school system in Europe, but I doubt that they would do that in Europe, because Europe has been a great inspiration to us here in the US and different communities, showing how glyphosate has been banned and different chemicals have been banned. We've been super grateful to watch people around the world leading the way to show how within their own communities they can protect their families from these harmful chemicals. But I would venture so far as to say that we have a responsibility to put this information into schools and to educate young people who are feeling the pressures and the fears that we're all facing about the doom and gloom of, you know, climate change and desertification. We need to be showing them that there is a pathway for how to reverse that. And that is regenerative agriculture. That's why we're creating these curriculums. That's why we're making them for free. We're not the only ones. I mean, like I said, this is the tip of a movement, and we're all a part of it.
Yeah. And I think that's now a good finale for the final question. If you could recommend some concrete actions that each person could do, like at the end of this podcast, what would that be?
Well, certainly we've talked a lot about grounding. So taking your shoes off and walking barefoot. I like to do it in the morning, first thing, 10 minutes. Walking, even if it is concrete, it's not as good, but it will still be something. I think we talk a lot about planting food in Common Ground and Kiss the Ground and Groundswell. You can do that regardless of where you live. Many of us live in cities, apartments. You can do that in a window box. You can do that in a pot. You can do that in a few different pots. You can grow herbs. You can grow flowers. You can grow tomatoes. So just the process of getting in touch with that is very powerful. And then there are sort of larger things you can do, which is obviously we want to regenerate our bodies. We want to regenerate ourselves first before we go off and regenerate the world. So we vote 3 times a day with our fork or a fork and knife. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're lucky enough to vote 3 times a day. Not everybody on the planet is. We vote with what we eat, with what we put in our body. So that's a vote internally for your body, and it's a vote externally for what gets grown on farms and ranches and in factories. What are you choosing? A lot of people go, oh, diet is too daunting. I can't deal with my diet. We're not telling you to become a vegan or even a vegetarian, but look at 5 to 10% of your diet. Can you shift 5 to 10% to regenerative sources, or at least organic? Regenerative means you actually know where it comes from. There are some labels coming that tell us where products can be regenerative, but for now we have organic. Mostly for regenerative, it's getting to know the farmer or rancher. How is this grown? Did you till the soil? Do you use chemicals? Do you spray? How did you treat the animals? Do they eat corn? Those kind of very important questions. Shift 5 to 10% of your diet over a month. See how you feel. Change 5 to 10% of your kids' diet over a month. See how they feel. Take out the really, really bad processed stuff. The glyphosate-filled wheat. Less so in Europe, but highly, highly toxic in America. The garbanzos. Again, less so in Europe, highly toxic in America. So reduce the toxins, increase the nutrition, do a little earthing, begin to plant some food, see how you feel.
Yeah.
See how that goes for a few weeks. Chances are, like the many people we know that have tried this, once you begin, you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
And then you're going to want to do it more. And then you're going to feel better some more. And you keep going. And that's the cycle of health and regeneration. That's what we want.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Wow, that's a great way to put it. And I think people will hopefully be able to listen more to their intuition, because once they do those steps that you have mentioned, their intuition will say, hey, do more of this or do more of that. And at the end, you start realizing my intuition is really pulling me more towards that natural stuff, all that topics that we just covered today. And I think that's where I challenge my listeners, to start reawakening that intuition and see what it tells you when you just try some of the things that we have spoken about today. Yeah, fantastic. And a final question I ask all of my guests at the end of each podcast: what is your definition of happiness?
Oof, my definition of happiness? Well, for me, happiness is the expression of like self-love, self-care, radiating outward. I used to like try to find the bag of chips or the TV show to kind of fill the thing. I mean, we all still kind of do that, let's be honest. Yep. But when I can tune in and I can generate my happiness, I can pull it up from the earth and I can bring it in through my food. I mean, there's just like that kind of nutrition, and my body and my cells are thriving, and I can just quiet my mind and I don't know, laying naked on the earth. That's my definition of happiness.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And rich, green, soil, organic matter, rich grass.
And Josh, what about you? How would you define happiness?
I mean, very similar. Health and well-being for myself, for my partnership with Rebecca, for our family, our kids. When everybody's thriving and we're healthy and the world is green and it's bountiful like it is here on Big Picture Ranch, it's easy to tap into that happiness, and suddenly you're not as attracted to the doom and gloom scrolling on social media, and that amygdala calms down and your body just centers, and happiness is actually our natural state, just like balance, just like health. That's actually where our body and mind want to live.
Yeah.
So how do we reconnect to those things? Yeah.
Very good.
Well, you could also, one of the things you could also do is watch Kiss the Ground. You could watch Common Ground. You could watch the Earthing movie. You could watch all our films. That's a good access to this stuff too.
Or you could buy an earthing mat, and I get nothing for saying that.
That's
I just, firmly believe. And if you live in a city, you don't have to be deprived of the earth.
And I have one right under my desk right now. I'm standing on, or I'm sitting on it.
Yeah. It's great.
Excellent.
Really does.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Juan. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, it was fantastic, this conversation, and we went by so fast. I could have just spoken so many more things into so many rabbit holes, but for today, this was a fantastic packed information for our listeners. So Josh and Rebecca, thank you so much for your time, and we are so grateful for all the things that you're doing for our planet and for our people and for the soil and the environment. So continue the fantastic work, and we're going to be there crossing our fingers that we're going to get that tipping point, and we are going to have good and healthy planet for our future generations.
Thanks, Juan. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. What an incredible conversation with Josh and Rebecca. Here are the key highlights from our talk. Point number 1, films have the power to change the world and raise awareness about environmental issues. Learning nugget number 2 is that regenerative agriculture has the power to restore the health of the planet and improve the nutrient density of our food. Point number 3, education plays a crucial role in shaping the future of sustainability. And learning nugget number 4, all of us can take small, inexpensive actions to contribute to our health and the health of our planet. For example, by walking barefoot, eating plant-based meals, choosing to buy products coming from farmers who practice regenerative farming, and if possible, even planting your own food.
Don't forget to check the show notes for links and details on where to find Josh and Rebecca. I encourage you to look at their amazing work. For your convenience, I have even placed the trailers to some of their movies and documentaries on my website, www.wave-bef.com. I fully support their work. Now, I'm curious which part of this episode resonated the most with you. I value your feedback and would love to hear from you. Please take a moment to rate, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who could benefit from this content. Your support means the world to me, and it motivates me to keep creating content that adds value to your life. Looking forward to connecting with you in the next episode. Big hugs, everyone.